President Donald Trump is in China for the first time in his second term. The heads of state of the two superpowers will be face to face on Thursday. Xi-Trump meeting comes in the backdrop of trade tensions, Iranian war and tensions over Taiwan. The entire world is keeping a close eye on what comes out of this high-stakes bilateral engagement. The agenda of this meeting is flooded with several issues, from pressure points like Iran and Taiwan to trade negotiations. There's a lot riding on Donald Trump's China visit. Let's take a look at U.S.-China ties under the lens of dependency, dominance and influence. First up is trade and rare earths. The United States has the world's largest market, while China has the world's biggest manufacturing hub. This reflects in the trade imbalance between both nations. Balance of trade is heavily tilted in China's favor. President Trump has tried to flip the balance using tariffs, but Beijing has so far withstood the pressure from Washington. Salvo of tariffs and counter-tariffs have eased under trade truce, and President Trump has said that he will ask President Xi to open up China to American business. The U.S. and China are also contesting for the crown of an AI superpower. This is where both nations have significant interdependency. U.S. holds technological know-how, while China controls the key elements required to manufacture it. It will be interesting to see how both countries negotiate on rare earths and access to advanced AI chips. To set the ball rolling on tech front, President Trump is accompanied by Tesla CEO Elon Musk, Apple CEO Tim Cook, and NVIDIA's Jensen Huang. The combined market capitalization of the companies in the delegation is nearly two-thirds of China's annual GDP. On the geopolitical front, both sides hold significant influence on each other's adversaries. United States' influence on Taiwan and China's influence on Iran could also come into play. China maintains that Taiwan is its integral part, while Donald Trump wants to put pressure on Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz. However, the U.S. president said he does not need any help on Iran.
I don't think we need any help with Iran, to be honest with you. They're defeated militarily, and they'll either do the right thing or we'll finish the job.
The U.S. and China are also contesting in the battle of influence at the global stage. China has emerged as a stabilizing power as Trump tries to continue to hammer existing alliances with his tariff gambit. China remains an influential power within BRICS and SCO, while Donald Trump has strained ties with the EU, NATO and other G7 nations. AUKUS and Quad are effectively on the back burner under Trump 2.0. Hours before Trump even touched down in Beijing, Chinese embassy in USA posted 4 red lines in China-US relationship. This include Taiwan, democracy and human rights, paths and political systems, and China's development right. How much of this will reflect in the upcoming talks? That is the big question. Retired Colonel David B. Desroches is a professor at the Thayer Marshall Institute and former Deputy Director for Peacekeeping in the Office of the Secretary of Defense. Desroches, it's good to see you. Thank you very much for your time. Do you have any hopes, or what do you predict will happen in this meeting between President Xi and President Trump?
Well, when you look at the makeup of the delegation, it's pretty obvious that the focus is going to be on trade and issues of trade. So I think what we'll see is some announcements of joint manufacturing, easing of restrictions on different things. You mentioned rare earths. That's one possibility. I think there's also going to be a discussion of energy markets and energy flows. I think that both sides don't want to publicly address the various security issues because that tends to complicate issues of trades, which is premier in Trump's mind. But I think that President Trump will point out, for example, China has a greater interest in freedom of navigation through the Strait of Hormuz than the United States does. And China is probably Iran's biggest, most important, certainly international supporter. So I think President Trump will say, look, you know, what your client state is doing damages your own interest. But I don't know that he'll go public on that. I think that would be surprising. I think trade will be the focus.
Colonel, what about the issue on Taiwan? How do you think that will play out? Because China insists that Taiwan is part of its territory. President Trump says he will not bring up the matter. He will let that be for Xi's opinion or standing.
Yeah, so I think that's how Trump wants to do it. He wants to avoid a difficult issue, a difficult political issue, which, quite frankly, China's not on the verge of resolving it, and he'll focus on trade. If China raises it, he may feel obliged to say something, but I don't think that Trump is going to go off and say, look, you've been conducting provocative naval drills around Taiwan, and we are committed to defending Taiwan's sovereignty. That's not what he's going to say. I think that'll be something, that will be in the background unless the Chinese raise it. I would be very, very surprised if President Trump were to raise it on his own.
Very quickly, Colonel, what about the Iranian issue? Do you actually think they will talk about Iran? And China has maintained its position that it's going to be a negotiator in this issue. Trump wants the Strait of Hormuz to be opened. Iran was there before Trump headed to Beijing.
Yeah, so I think what Trump will point out is that China needs the Strait of Hormuz open more than the United States does. And if China acquiesces in what is basically a literal strait, assuming control of international waterways, China is vulnerable to, say, the United States allying with Singapore doing the same. China is much more dependent on this than the United States. So I think it will be discussed. I think President Trump will basically say, what you are doing here runs counter to your own interests in the long run. So you need to reconsider your support for Iran. And again, I don't think that'll be a focus, but I think it will be mentioned.
All right. Colonel, it's good to see you. Thank you very much for your insights and for talking to us today.
It's an honor. Thank you.